Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Some NHL deals filtering in the day before the NHL trade deadline. Meanwhile, all of today's guests, including John Shannon, standing by. Brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. G-Man headed to the WHL playoffs after clinching a berth last night. Your next chance to catch the Giants at the LEC is this Sunday when they take on Prince George. Puck drop 4 p.m. Don't forget, you can enjoy a family skate after the game. Head to VancouverGiants.com to get single game tickets and stay tuned for playoff ticket info. And again, the LEC hosting the BC Boys High School Basketball Tournament this week. Just before we get to John, Ryan, an NHL trade or two to talk about?
The Vegas Golden Knights have reacquired Riley Smith from the Rangers. Riley Smith's been out a few games because of trade-related reasons. Brendan Brisson and a third-round pick are going back to the Rangers, so that's the trade, the biggest trade, I think.
And that's Pat Brisson's kid?
Yeah,
that's Pat's kid, yeah.
The other item just coming down is Ryan Reeves has been put on waivers by the Toronto Maple Leafs, ahead, of course, of tomorrow's trade deadline.
Is that a wow?
Yeah. Well, no, it is because there's term left on there. No one's going to take him. That's why. I'd be shocked if anyone took him. He's what is he down to 6, 7, 8 minutes a game?
Yeah, and hasn't played very much. Oh, one other thing, by the way, Brandon Tanev is going to be kept out of the Kraken lineup tonight.
Yeah,
for trade-related reasons.
Seattle, out of Seattle. Chris Tanev's brother,
pending UFA.
Yep.
Mike Tanev's son.
Mike Tanev's son.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Sure, John's really excited to hear about it. Probably is. He's a hockey fan. John Shannon joins us from the 100% Hockey podcast. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Living the dream, boys. Day before the deadline. I'm just happy I'm not having to sit on my phone all day.
Oh.
Yeah, like the old days.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, it was. Tell you what, some people, like, as a fan, you can enjoy it, but the Saravellis, the Friedmans, the Dragers, the LeBruns. This is a long, arduous week. Not as long as arduous as the guys getting traded.
Yeah.
But it's a long, arduous week. By the way, the Ryan Reeves thing is just, Brad has to clear some cap space. And if he's going to bring somebody in, he has to get $1 million off the books. And by moving Ryan Reeves, he can send him to the Marlies, and then you can have a little more space to use down the stretch.
Do you buy this talk about Mikko Rantanen maybe being headed to the Leafs? John?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't, but that's not to say that Carolina has not been pleading with people to take a look at it. I still don't understand why Carolina would even contemplate getting 50, 60 cents on the dollar for Rantanen when they could have him for a playoff run. And so to me, they've already got egg on their face over this one. They couldn't sign him. I'm not sure what the internal discussions were with his agent, Andy Scott, were before the trade was made. And so they can't go 2 years in a row with making a splash at the deadline like they did with Jake Gensel last year, and then lose Gensel to Tampa. And I don't think they can do it again with Rantanen. I really would. I'd keep Rantanen and hopefully get through the regular season and go deep into the playoffs.
Oilers pick up Trent Frederick earlier this week, but they've lost 6 of their last 7. They were trounced 6-2 by Anaheim at home on Tuesday. What's wrong in Edmonton, John?
Well, it's a streaky team at the best of times, Donnie. I mean, this is a team that has gotten off the last couple of years to bad starts and then goes on huge runs. 16 wins in a row, two losses, 8 wins in a row. But at the same time, they're only as good as Connor McDavid can be. And right now, Connor's tired. He's spoken to that. He's addressed that. Matthias Ekholm is tired. He has not had a good second half of the season. He's not going to play tonight against Montreal. Neither is John Klingberg. So there are issues of depth. There are issues of health in Edmonton that almost can't be addressed by the trade deadline. At the same time, you know what? This is a get in and win league, guys. It sure would be nice to be first. Sure, it'd be nice to have home ice at least in one round of the playoffs. But we have seen it before. If you get into the playoffs and you're ready for the playoffs, you have a chance to win. And I suspect that will be the case. Just ask the Florida Panthers, who have done it both ways. Squeaked in and got to the Stanley Cup final, and then had been in a much better spot last year and won the Stanley Cup.
John, you know who loves trade deadlines? Jim Rutherford. But we don't know what's going to happen in the next 25 hours. Is he going to make a big move, no moves, buy, sell? What's your gut saying?
You know, the fascination with Jimmy, like Lou Lamoriello, is you almost have to put your back against the wall, Rick, and say, I'm not, I got to be prepared because it's too quiet. It's too quiet in Vancouver, as it is too quiet on Long Island right now. So from that perspective, the Canucks can't sit still. They have to do something. Now, don't you think that the Quinn Hughes injury has mitigated that a little bit?
Right.
And what do they have to trade? I mean, everybody's now talking about Carson Soucy, but you know what? I think Carson Soucy's played pretty well for Vancouver. I don't know why you'd, particularly with Hughes out, I don't know why you'd even contemplate getting rid of him. Again, this team can still make the playoffs. They play well enough. That Anaheim team they beat last night is a much better Anaheim team than we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. And so that's a good victory for Vancouver last night. I don't know about you, but I thought Pettersson was pretty darn good last night.
Agreed.
Particularly in the face-off circle. You guys have talked about that.
Yep.
Now, when you have Connor Garland, Dakota Joshua, and Sherwood having more shots on goal than Elias Pettersson, that's the only concern I have. I just want the guy to shoot the puck, please. Just shoot the puck. He's got a great shot. Shoot the puck, and we're going to start seeing the old Pettersson back here sooner than later.
Hey, John, I don't know if you saw Brock Nelson crying on the bench post-game. I think, like, Brock Nelson, this is a tough week for some guys who love their organizations, and I think I would put Brock Besser in there too. Like, they don't want to leave, but the business side is saying, okay, you guys have rejected, both these guys, Besser and Nelson, they've rejected contract offers from the team. But, boy, watching him post-game for the Islanders, a lot of these guys are having a tough time leaving teams, but the business side is hinting at them that it may happen.
And a lot of that, Rick, I think is not just because the ramifications of a player. You know, these guys have been doing this since they were doing tryouts for Pee Wee.
Yep.
And so they're used to it. But when you get into your late 20s and early 30s, and it's not just you anymore, it's your wife or your partner, and in some cases kids, that becomes the real challenge. And so that's where I think there's a lot more effect in what they could do. Both of those guys you mentioned, Besser and Nelson, could stay. Could stay for reasonable numbers. Maybe not the longest term that they could get, but reasonable numbers. But they've chosen not to. And then the shoe's on the other foot. And Lamoriello and Alvin and Rutherford have an obligation to do what's best for the organization, not necessarily what's best to do for Brock Besser, or in the case on the island for Brock Nelson.
John, before we let you go, trade deadline on Friday. Going back a bit, who had the idea that broadcasting multiple hours on NHL trade deadline day would work in this country?
Well, I think you have to give a couple of guys credit, and even Mark Milliere, who was in charge of production at TSN, and Steve Dryden, who for the longest time was the editor of the Hockey News, and then moved over to TSN as kind of the hockey editor for TSN. They were the ones that really pushed the envelope about trade deadline, about free agency. And even about the draft lottery, guys. They were the ones saying that there is a compulsion in our country, particularly, to be able to watch the machinations of hockey teams and discuss this stuff and create content. And the magic of trade deadline day, unlike the other 1,312 hockey games that we do all the time, is there's no rights fee involved. This is wide open. Tomorrow, how many different ways do you think you could count how to watch what's going on? All the different websites, radio, television. I mean, it's a free-for-all, and in many ways, it is one of the great advertising days, promotional days for the National Hockey League. Maybe not in the United States, but certainly it feeds the frenzy for Canadian hockey fans to sit or listen and have a good time talking about their favorite hockey clubs and talking about what's going to be right or wrong for their team as they try to get to the playoffs.
Lots of trades, not many trades. It's always fun. John?
Yeah. They are going to, I tell you what, I talked to a manager this morning. Mm-hmm. They are expecting the dam to burst later today, and it could be crazy by 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific tomorrow.
Well, then we'll have a fun show tomorrow.
Wow. That's where I'm going to get my information on trades from, YouTube. and then Ryan will sit there and tell us about the Whitecaps. But it's okay.
So true.
By the way, just for the record.
We are live. We are live.
We are live.
We were live with Farhan earlier, and there was almost an issue with that, John.
Driving his car.
Listen, I'm staying out of Farhan's way. When he gets mad, boy, it's a problem.
We know. Hey, it'll be fun tomorrow, but you won't be on our show, so I don't know how much fun it can be. But
I'll be fun listening. I'll be fun listening and watching, and I'll text you some good info. How's that?
Perfect. Yes. It's a deal. We'll send you a hat.
We love info.
I don't have a hat. I'll give you. By the way, you send me a hat, I'll give you a 100% hat.
Okay. Done deal.
The 100%, and it can go beside that green Cablevision bag that was from 1960.
It's a jersey. It's a jersey. Double XL for me, John.
I go stretchy all the time.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, your notes are the right way to do the notes too. Forget whatever they.
Yes. See, they're making fun of me. Yes.
I know. What do they know? Research is research.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the product on the air.
Yep.
As you know. Thanks for this, John.
Cheers, boys.